First, let's pay homage to the lineage gurus. Homage to the Venerable Monk Liao Ming. Homage to Master Sakya Zhengkong. And homage to the 16th Dharma King Karmapa. Homage to Master Dukten Dorji. Homage to the three jewels of the altar. And homage to the main deity of group practice today, the Guru Padmasambhava. Simu, all Dharma masters, Dharma educators, Dharma teachers, Dharma lecturers, Dharma assistants, temple directors, all disciples present here and over the internet, and our special guests this evening, accountant to the True Buddha Foundation, Dharma Sister Teresa, the attorney advisor to the True Buddha Foundation, Dharma Sister Jennifer Zhou, and a member of the True Buddha School's professor group, a EE professor of National Tsen Kung University of Taiwan, Professor Li Wang. Producers for the Geni Diansang Xinten of CTI TV Taiwan, Dharma Sister Rebecca Xuyaqi, and Dr. Ryan Zhuang. So good evening, everyone. How do you do? Selamat malam. Selamat malam. Ni hao. Dai ga hao. And in Cantonese, 希望我们的同修请这个同修的本尊 I hope that the main deity of the group practice bestow to all the participants auspiciousness and all your wishes be fulfilled. May all your wishes be fulfilled. 今天我们谈到就是同修莲华生大士。The group practice for Guru Padmasambhava. And in this great perfection Dharma, it happened to talk about the verse of Guru Padmasambhava, the first verse, comprehension and wisdom as father, compassion and joy as mother, non-arising and non-ceasing as the ground, inner and outer penetration as the heart, arising and existence with no grasping as the food, subjugation of the thoughts as the seat. This was the first word of Guru Padmasambhava, the first verse. And the most important part is, one is wisdom, and the other is compassion, and then non-arising and non-ceasing, and inner and outer penetration, and emptiness and existence with no grasping, and subjugation of the thoughts. These are very important in Buddha Dharma. It will take a long time to explain all of this. So let's talk about subjugation of the thoughts, because we all have lots of thoughts. And all of our thoughts are the master of all our actions. And because you have the thought in your mind, that's why you have the action. So we try to control our actions through the precepts. Our conduct and behavior are controlled through the precepts, but our thoughts are beyond the precepts. Simply said, in Tantrayana, in studying the tantric practices, first you need to comprehend the 50 verses of Guru devotion, which is how to devote, how to view the Guru in the tantric tradition. There are 50 precepts in this. So is there anyone that does not violate this Guru devotion? It's very difficult. Almost everybody would violate the precepts. And this is the most basic precepts for a tantric practitioner. Is there anyone that can comply completely? No. Almost everybody would breach the precepts. There was a very famous, a pure monk, and he went to the underworld, and the ghost saw this monk. And this hungry ghost said, I've been waiting for close to 100 years. And finally, I encounter a pure monk. And this pure monk offers some food to the hungry ghost. And the hungry ghost could take the food offered by the pure monk. So the food did not change. So if you take a biscuit for the hungry ghost, the biscuit would become a fiery hot iron ball, a hot iron piece that would burn all the inside of the ghost. So the food that can be accepted by the hungry ghosts have to be offered by pure monks. So hungry ghosts in hell have to wait 100 years in order to be able to receive a food offering. There were many monks that have been to there, but none of them were pure monks. So subjugating the thoughts are extremely difficult. If you can subdue your thoughts, that's the same as you have fruition in your spiritual cultivation. That means you already attained some Dharma throne. So it's very difficult. It's very extremely difficult to be pure. Now let's tell our first joke. So a witch and Snow White. So the witch has an apple, and The witch asked the Snow White to eat the apple, and Snow White ate the apple. So, and the witch asked, how come you're not dead by taking the toxic apple, poisonous apple? And Snow White replied, because I've lived in Taiwan for many years, so now I am untouched by poison. Because food safety in Taiwan is problematic. There was toxic flour. Now we have toxic oils. All kinds of oils are toxic. And after Grandmaster gets to America, Grandmaster can kill all kinds of germs because Grandmaster has taken the toxic flour and oil in Taiwan. So now I'm untouched by poisons. So subjugating our running thoughts are extremely difficult. Frankly speaking, it is extremely difficult to pacify the world, to make it pure. Say for businessmen, it is human nature to have greed. Taiwanese Vice President, Mr. Wu Dun-yi, was asked, why were so many things in Taiwan unfit for health? They are toxic. And Mr. Wu Dun-yi said, because their conscience were eaten by the dogs. Everything is toxic because of greed. And the greed itself is also poisonous. If you make a real good flour and oil, it would cost more. But to make artificial or toxic flour and oils, they would gain more profits. So because of their greed, they affect the health of many people. So greed is also a kind of improper thought, and it is difficult to subdue it because everyone has greed. So most importantly for Buddhists is we want to stop our greed. So those in constructions, sometimes they would cut corners and corrupt. I have shared this joke before. It's from a minister from Indonesia went to Brazil and met the minister from Brazil. And the Brazilian minister's house was just like a palace. And the Indonesian minister asked him, how did you do this? And the Brazilian minister opened his window and showed the Indonesian minister, look. And he saw a bridge that was only half. And the bridge was only half. And the Indonesian minister said, okay, I understand, I got it. And he went back to Indonesia. And one day he invited the Brazilian minister to visit him in Indonesia. And then the Brazilian minister saw that if his house were a palace, this Indonesian minister's house was like a royal palace. How did you do it? And the Indonesian minister opened a window and say, look, it's this river and no bridge. So that's a kind of greedy thought. That's greed, because that has great impact on people, on other beings. So food safety would have great impact on everybody's health. So they should have conscience and virtues. They should be educated. They need to learn Buddha Dharma. Once they learn Buddha Dharma, they need to learn to stop their greed, desire, their aggression, anger, hatred, and their ignorance and foolishness. Otherwise, if they don't stop these three poisons, then there would be poisons everywhere. So as disciples, in order to subjugate the running thoughts, we need to abide by the precepts as a start. There's another joke. I have a second date with a woman I knew from the internet. And I got a newly bought iPhone 6, and she brought that, and I played with it. And there was a number with like a spare tire associated with the phone number. So I was curious. So I asked her, do you have a friend by the name Spare, last name? And the woman said, come on, give me back my iPhone. And then the man pretended to hold on to it. And then inadvertently, they touched on the call button, and my phone rang. So do you understand? So I'm the spare tire. So this woman still have this improper thought. So she probably have 4 friends who are the wheels, and then 1 more spare tire. So 4 tires plus 1 spare tire. So whether it is a man or woman, they both have greed, thought for greed. And then you need to eliminate it. You need to subdue it. Once you can subdue it, then you have fruition in your spiritual cultivation. If you don't subdue your running or improper thoughts, how could you attain fruition in your spiritual cultivation? This is important. So no grasping toward emptiness nor existence. So you don't grasp on, you don't get attached to emptiness nor existence. So if everything you view as emptiness, then there would be no cause and effect, no karma, no reincarnation. Everything is totally empty. Then you would be sitting at home completely emptied. Because you are too attached to emptiness, then you find everything on earth as meaningless. And in this situation, it would be easy for you to become depressed and you isolate yourself. Everything is empty, and life is meaningless to you. Then at the end you find everything to be meaningless, then you don't want to do anything. Then you go against compassion and wisdom. And existence, if you regard everything is existing, that's not right. If everything is empty, that's also not right. If everything is real, then you would have this improper thoughts, you would have greedy thoughts. It's very simple. If you think everything is real and everything is yours, you want a car, you want a house. There was a great benefactor that wanted to offer me a Rolls Royce. And then I said, I already have Rolls Royce brother, Bentley, although it's from the year 1999 until now. But it's only driven for 25,000 miles from 1999, 25,000 miles only. So I rarely drive it. It still looked new. Yesterday, when I drove, there was a policeman that told me, nice car. Rolled his window down and said, nice car. And I said, thank you to the policeman, to the cop. 1999. It's an old car, 1999. So I thank him, and he said that I drive a nice car. But as a human being, we shouldn't be greedy, although Rolls Royce is better than Bentley. But I still thank him or her. No need. I'm already content having a Bentley to drive. We should be content. Then we can subdue our improper thoughts. If you're not content, it's impossible to subdue your thoughts. That's why contentment is very important. Anything like a house, you also want. A car, you also want. Money, delicious food, anything. So money, sex, fame, positions, you all one of those. So if it is yours, if you deserve it, then that's yours. Then if it's yours, then you can take it and use it. If it's not supposedly yours, then don't take them. Everything Grandmaster has is offered by disciples, including these dragon robes, my Lama outfit, my underwear, undershirt. Don't laugh. Recently, there are many people gave me underwear and undershirts because the other day I said, I have too many dragon vests, but nobody offered my underwear, underpants, but now I have 2 drawers full of undergarments. And this chanting beads was offered This is from Hawaii. It's a coconut made of coconuts. And this ring was offered by Dharma brother Ing from Indonesia. This both sapphire and ruby were offered by Indonesian disciples. So Indonesian disciples not bad, they were good. That's why I said Selamat Malam, meaning good evening in Indonesian. So offerings made to Grandmaster have to be worn from time to time and worn to show them and talk about so that they feel better. So everything on me were offered by disciples. I myself have nothing. I only spend money on two things in America is to buy gas. To buy gas for the car. I cannot make a phone call to ask someone to pay for my gas, right? And in Taiwan is to buy the bottled water. So I only spend money on two things. In America is to buy gas, and in Taiwan is to buy the bottled water. Then I almost never spend money on anything else. I have no spendings. I don't buy anything because I have everything. And this watch, I forgot about it. It's very sparkling. It was offered by the True Buddha Foundation. Together, they made this offering. And the brand is Shen Lu. So the brand is my name. It's Rolex, but they changed and they covered the Rolex with my name, with a plate of gold with my name on it. So it's a brand of Shen Lu. So it's an offering by True Buddha Foundation. So I really have to mention it, otherwise True Buddha Foundation would be upset. Grandmaster doesn't spend on anything else. And I'm very content. All I use are really nice. They were all offerings by disciples. What else would you want? Nothing. And because of that, then my brain is really cool. My mind is very cool and serene. So things that are supposedly yours, then you can use them. But when they are not supposedly yours, then there's no need for you to force them upon you. Force yourself upon them. So whatever you do, you have to have good conscience and integrity. You cannot go over. And also you don't want to reject them all. So that means no attachments toward emptiness nor existence. And this is very important. So when Guru Padmasambhava was still the crown prince, one day Vajrasattva appeared amidst the five-colored limbo light and told him, "You are a spiritual leader or ruler, Chakravartin, and not a leader of a nation. That in the future, you're actually a spiritual leader of Tantrayana, but you're not a king of a nation." That he was brought back by the king and to be crowned prince. But Vajrasattva told him that you are a ruler or spiritual leader of Tantrayana, but not a leader of a nation. So people regard that the one in highest position would be kings or emperors or in the modern day presidents. But in reality, even those in the highest positions are not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to be presidents forever. There were many presidents in Korea that were imprisoned at the end. In Korea, there were many presidents that were imprisoned after their presidency. So the new president, and then the later president would free them. And in Japan, there were prime ministers who were at the top position, but they still take turns. So, emperors of China, these dynasties, Tang, Yixia, Shangzhou, Qing, Han, the Sikuo, Wei, Jin, Northern and Southern Wei, and Tang, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing dynasties. Those were dynasties for the past 5,000 years in China. They were all turning. They were all turning and turning about. You don't become an emperor or a king forever. So what is forever? Only the spiritual leader is eternal. And Guru Padmasambhava is the spiritual leader of Tantrayana. And in Tibet, the 4 major sects of the yellow, red, white, and Sakya sect, they all revere Guru Padmasambhava. But let me ask you a simple question. Who remembered the 3 emperors and 5 kings? Do you remember? So please raise your hand if you remember. The 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. These were the sovereigns of the Chinese people in the past, but nobody remembers. Nobody remembers. So Han Dynasty is very famous, right? We often say that we are of Han descent or Tang people, because Tang Dynasty was also very thriving, Han Dynasty too. So let me ask you, how many emperors were there in the Han Dynasty? Do you remember? You only remember the Han Wuti, the Emperor Wu of Han. And in Tang Dynasty is Li Siming. And Tang Gaozong, Tang Taizong. These 2 emperors. And then who else? Do you remember? How many emperors were there in the Tang Dynasty? And among them there was Empress Wu Zetian. But would anyone remember? See, you don't even remember the emperors. Moreover, those people underneath, ministers and all the other officials, nobody would remember. So name and position are only momentarily, only to be remembered for a short time, and afterwards they're all gone. So name and position are nothing. So you are a spiritual ruler and not a ruler of a nation. You know, as a spiritual leader, he would attain fruition, and then he would reach the realm of non-arising and non-ceasing, no birth and no death. Then he attained the fruition of a Tathagata. Although the body would pass away, but in reality, he has no birth and no death. So, but wealth, name, and position, they all have starts and endings. So we know a young, beautiful lady, we call them hot girls, pretty girls. They are very beautiful. And men are very focused. And what it meant is when he's in his 20s, he loves the girl in 18, an 18-year-old. When he's in his 50s, he's still like an 18-year-old lady. And in his 80s, 90s, he still loves the 18-year-old lady. But when a lady reaches 40, she's middle-aged. When she's 80, then she would lose her teeth if you kiss her. So you cannot maintain your beauty. So you only have a very short time for your youth and beauty. And the rest is slipping. You cannot maintain it. The only thing that you can maintain and would have the no birth and no death is spiritual cultivation. So what is guaranteed if you can reach the realm of non-arising and non-ceasing and attain the fruition of Tathagata? So Vajrasattva told Guru Padmasambhava that you are a spiritual leader, that you're supposed to cultivate spiritually, but you're not a ruler of a nation. That wealth, beauty, and position are all empty. The richest man in the ancient time in China would be who? Was it Deng Tong? Shi Cong? Shi Cong. So who was Deng Tong? Shi Cong was the richest, but his descendants all gone. There were many people who were very rich, but their descendants, nothing. So it's only for the moment, only for a short period of time. Or in Taiwan, when we were little, or when we were young, we all know that the richest man was Wang Yongqing. Now it's somebody else. Ge Taiming in Taiwan. In Hong Kong. Li Ka-shing in Hong Kong. Was he famous? And before him? No name. So even being rich is only for the time being, like for Bill Gates too. The first time I visited Bellevue, and the first time I came to Redmond, this location of Seattle Lechang Temple, it was just a hill, and up above there was just woods. That Bill Gates Microsoft's location was just woods. When I got here, I thought, oh, this is perfect. This is really good for Seattle Lechang Temple. And there were many disciples then. And once we set our location here, there would be many disciples around the world. It would all start from this head temple at the Seattle Lechang Temple. Then it would generate the great true Buddha school, a huge school, because of this geomancy. And then up above from the Seattle temple, it was a piece of wood there, and I said, this land is incredible, that in the future, this would belong to the richest man on earth. And truly enough, now belongs to Bill Gates. That Microsoft location at that time was just all wood. There was no house whatsoever. I told Gao Ming-san, I called him Shen, if you want to buy land, buy this piece of land. This is the land for the richest man on earth. If you buy this, then the richest man on earth would buy it from you, and then you would get rich. As we drove by that piece of land, that's what I told them. If you want to buy land, you should buy this piece of land. Of course, this location here for us, for the temple, but up there, above from us, you need to buy it. If you buy a house and build a house there, it could be rented easily. And now it's full of houses, neighborhoods. That's what I said at that time. That's a score of 100 for geomancy. Here is good. It's also very good. It would generate a great true Buddha school, would become the source. And then up there, the location for Microsoft now, I knew that this land would belong to the richest man on earth because it has a score of 100. So anyone that can check on the geomancy of a land, you would be able to check on the qi, that there would be qi on a piece of land. And the qi was very thriving. And the qi stops right here at the Seattle Lechang Temple, because there was a little bit of mound here. And we dig a piece of huge rock from under the ground and now become the place for the dragon god, dragon king god. And this was all true story. And Master Lian Huo, Lian Si, and Lian Zu knew that, because at that time, this was all a piece of wood. And I did say that if you want to gain money, you should have bought that piece of land. During Olympic Games, a Chinese and a foreign audience were comparing the medals. And the foreigners said that they gained 6 medals. And the Chinese audience said that Yue Fei, this is a joke, that would be able to get one day. Yue Fei is a card from the emperor. He's the general, Yue Fei. You're correcting my Chinese pronunciation? Although my Mandarin Chinese is quite fluent, but Chinese is difficult to learn. There are so many ways of pronouncing. The Prime Minister, Ching and the General Ye Hui won the war, won the battles, and the minister was envious of the general and called him back using the gold kind of like a decree to ask him to come back. And he got it so many. Because the minister wanted him back from the battlefield. And the decree came from the emperor. So when he got that, he had to return to the capital and finally was killed by the prime minister. This was Chinese history. Envy and jealousy are sicknesses. So envy, jealousy, anger, they're all sicknesses. So we need to pay careful attention to this. As a spiritual cultivators, we should not be envious or jealous toward others. We want to correct our own behavior and conduct and our own mind. So we cultivate our mind and to correct or cultivate our actions. We should not breach the precepts. We should not breach the precepts set by Sakyamuni Buddha and all other precepts. So envy and jealousy are common, but actually that's breaching the precepts, that's violating the precepts. So henceforth, afterward, the crown prince left for the south to the mountain Atian Ki Kechong to practice spiritually, receiving empowerments from Vajrasattva, and practice the 8 outer practices, the 8 inner practices, and the non-arising and non-ceasing longevity practices, and attain fruition in them all. So Vajrasattva conferred empowerment to Guru Padmasambhava. So that's a very secret lineage, because Vajrasattva has no physical form. So Vajrasattva conferred empowerment upon Guru Padmasambhava. And Guru Padmasambhava conferred empowerment upon myself. And that was also of intangible empowerment, and that's the most profound secret lineage. And Guru Padmasambhava was well versed in the 5 arts and sciences and all kinds of worldly learnings. So the 5 arts and sciences are medical science and healing, and crafts and skills, so you can build mechanicals and crafts and skills, and the science of sound, the logics that can be induced. That's today we call it logics or deductions. And the science of sound, that means languages. You can speak many different languages. And you know Sanskrit, Tibetan, and languages of many countries, and the inner sciences, and that's Buddha Dharma. That's Buddha Dharma. That's called the five arts and sciences, or the five wisdoms. And this would encompass all kinds of knowledges or learnings. So Guru Padmasambhava from Arjuna learned astrology, geology, and sciences of yin and yang and the five elements. So at that time, they already have astrology and geology and the science of yin and yang. And Guru Padmasambhava also learned this character is hard to pronounce. Jivaka Kumara, he learned medicine. Guru Padmasambhava has many teachers. And he learned from Kungi Sengyen, learned all kinds of Indian languages. After I visited India, there was the ancient Sanskrit, the modern Sanskrit. And in India, there were a total of 18 different kinds of Sanskrits. Just in India, there are already 18 different kinds of Sanskrits. And China is also huge. Just in the province of Fujian or Fujian, there's already so many dialects there. And in one province of Canton, there are so many dialects. And in the province of Sichuan, in Shanghai, there was the Ningbo language, Sichuan language, and to Manchuria, in the northeast, there was Manchurian scripts and language. Han, Meng, Man. There were so many different languages in China. Han, Man, Wen, Zhang. So because I was in Taiwan, I learned the Taiwanese phonetics. So in languages, it's not so bad. My mastership is not bad. The way I pronounce a character is I don't care how my pronunciation is. It would make you laugh, right? At least. So if your language skill is better than mine, maybe you can give a Dharma teaching here. Because you're always correcting Grandmaster. Grandmaster correcting your guru. So I was born in Taiwan, so I learned Bopomofo. But in China, like in Beijing, they use Pinyin. They use Hanyu Pinyin. So in China, they're more standard. And Taiwan is slightly off. But Malaysian Chinese, Singaporean Chinese, Indonesian Chinese are even worse than us. They're even further away. So language is not an easy matter. Mastering language is not easy. Grandmaster has learned for so long and have written so many books. And even then, I still pronounce a character improperly, and I still don't recognize some characters. And for the white people learning Chinese, some people learn really well. But in order to have a deep understanding, it's not easy. Because Chinese culture has its own uniqueness, and it's very difficult for Chinese to win the Nobel Prize. Only one son. So I read this several times. The Nobel Prize winner, I couldn't understand. Because it could not be comprehended. So that's why they won the Nobel Prize. If you understand, well, because it cannot be understood. That's why they won a prize. Like paintings, if it is an abstract painting, you know, like Master Lien Miao's painting, she said she could understand her paintings, but I don't. But my paintings, people can understand. But people would appreciate her paintings more. Why? Because they don't understand them. So they think when they don't understand that they must be of value. I don't know. So from Vishwakarma, he learns sculpting, dyeing, painting, buildings, and all kinds of crafts and skills. So astrology, medicine, languages, crafts and skill. And from Chapa Hai Sung Master, he learned the highest Yoga Tantra. That's the inner sciences. So let me share a joke. So a group of people came on the train. A professor from Taiwan, a Russian, and a Taiwanese college student, and Thai people. And the Thai people took durian to share. And then threw the rest through the window of the train. And the Taiwanese professor asked him, "Isn't that a waste?" And he replied, "Oh, in Thailand, we have so many durians. It's so much." And the Korean people share the Korean ginseng to everybody. And then he threw away the rest. And the Taiwanese professor asked, "This is a good Korean ginseng. How did you just throw it away?" And the Korean said, "We have lots of ginseng in Korea, and it's in it's never it's always there." And the Taiwanese professor threw out the Taiwanese college student out the window. So Professor Wang, did you throw your students out the window? Because there were too many college students in Taiwan. When I was in college in the past, I studied the survey engineering. And because I didn't have money to take the college entrance test, I declined taking the test because we were poor. because my parents told me that even if you pass the test, we have no money to support your college tuition. You only have two choices. One is to go to the teacher college, because in the teacher college, your room and board would be for free, then you would teach in return for a few years. Or you go to the military school and you become a military man, and they would give you clothing and free room and board. And you still have some wages to take. And then you have to be in service for 10 years in return for the education. 10 years in the military. Because we didn't have money, I didn't take any entrance test for the university, but instead I took the test for the military school and got into the survey engineering department and learned survey. And that's the reason why I got into the military school. And very few Taiwanese would want to be in the military school, mostly from the immigrant Chinese from mainland China. That was because we were poor. But now it's different. There are too many universities in Taiwan. How many?
157 150多所
Over 150 universities in Taiwan, 150 colleges, and they don't have enough students for the colleges. So their standards are very, very low. So if you get 10 out of 100, you can even get into the college. So if you get 10 out of 100, you can just take the test with your eyes closed. With that, if you gain 10 out of 100, then you can get admitted to the college. But not at my time. It was much more difficult, not like now. Too many colleges and not enough students. So did you throw out a few students out the window? Because when there are too many, then they have no value. But today, practicing Tantra is a rare and precious thing. In the past, in Taiwan, there was no Tantric Buddhism. I was the first one who studied Tantric Buddhism and then wrote books on Tantric Buddhism. And after the books were published, there were many Rinpoches and Lamas and beggars from Dharamsala came to Taiwan and became Dharma kings. There was just a beggar in Dharamsala, but when they got to Taiwan, he would be clothed as a Rinpoche and called, he was referred as an Rinpoche, and the Taiwanese highly revered him and made a lot of offerings to him. And in a moment, he gained wealth. So, but the primary reason was because of Grandmaster books. Grandmaster's books. I was the earliest one who spread Tantric Buddha Dharma in the Han, among the Han people in the Chinese language. So at that time, it was a very rare and precious thing, and now it's becoming more common. But in the Western countries, they're still not quite common. So that's why each one of us is a Dharma prince. And in the future, when we have attainment or fruition in our spiritual cultivation, each one of us would become a tantric lineage guru. When Grandmaster leaves the world in the future, every master and referent would come into light, and at that time, True Buddha School would have even greater influence. That's all for today. Om Mani Padme Hum.